this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 beliefs about reality that are ruining your life. I'm going to show you ways of pushing past these so that you start to expand your consciousness and experience a totally new reality. Welcome back to another video. My name is Aaron and I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you that of understanding those 3 beliefs that most people have that completely ruins their life or limits their life in an extreme way to where they're not able to really experience what they want in their life. Now, recently, I have been saying this quote, and I don't know if I am the person that actually the first person to ever say this, but I like the quote. I'm going to keep saying it, and that quote is this: the more you realize your life is a form of dream, the more dream-like your life will become. The reason this is because our beliefs about reality is influencing the kind of experiences that we're having. When we believe that with reality everything is set, everything is solid, we create the experience that that is the case, and therefore things are very fixed, things are hard to change, and things are very rigid. Our life becomes rigid. So when we change our general beliefs about reality itself, that's what creates a huge amount of change. Because what most people do is, I share on my channel, and a lot of other people may share, that your beliefs create your reality. So people may go and they say, okay, well, what are my beliefs about relationships? What are my beliefs about money? What are my beliefs about health? And they change that. Now, that can work. However, that has so many different categories. What about your beliefs about reality itself? What are your beliefs about how reality works? Because what we're taught growing up is that everything we see is completely real. And it is only real because we experience it through the 5 senses. So therefore, we start to interpret everything and label everything as what is real and what is not real. We go to bed at night and go, well, that was just a dream. That wasn't real. But in the same way, life in many ways is a long, consistent dream, to where we're able to look at different, we're able to stretch it out in linear time-space fashion and look at the memory versions of it. However, it all exists right now. The truth is, at a greater consciousness point of view, you are an immortal spiritual being living a temporary human experience. And when we come to Earth and we have this experience, we forget who we are. That's part of the game of life. We could say life is a dream. We could also, from a certain perspective, say that life is a game. Because when you learn the game, when you learn how to play the game, you start to gain more abilities. Because you start to see things from a different point of view. Now, one of the purposes of the game of life is to remember who we are. People call that a spiritual awakening. When you remember who you are, you start to gain more of your power. Because you realize that then you're not limited by the ego structure. You're like, I know that I'm more than this. Then you branch outside of it and you start to live in more consistency with who you really are. It's just that most people think they are only their ego. I am my ego. This is who I am. Whatever my mind can imagine is all that I am. Really, in actuality, you are so much more than you can even imagine. It's just that when we come to have this experience, we forget who we are. Imagine you were playing a video game and you knew the whole entire time that it was just a video game. Would you take it as seriously as if you logged into it and you had no idea that it was a video game? In a similar type way, we are immortal spiritual beings that come from higher dimensions of love, joy, peace, bliss. We feel connection with everyone in this level of perception, this level of consciousness. But then what we do is we come to Earth, because the thing is on Earth is there's this cause and effect. There's time, a dimension of time. So we can learn more. We can learn more while being here because things are spread out over time versus things happen instantaneous in higher dimensional frequency ranges of consciousness. Because in the natural state of who we are, we think of something, it appears. But how much learning is there? There's more learning when you can stretch this stuff out. So the intention by me sharing all of this with you is helping you to see that you are more than you can even imagine. That when you go to bed at night, you wake up to these higher states of consciousness. You just don't necessarily remember it when you wake up in the morning. Because if you were to remember that you are unconditional love and bliss, part of you may not want to really be here, might not want to take this so serious. Or not even serious, because life is about having fun. And I think the more that we let go of life being so serious, the more malleable things be anyways. However, if you were to remember that, you might just want to go back to that joy, love, peace feeling instead of trying to integrate it here and come at peace with being here and enjoying this experience. So you get these little, what do you call it, like subconscious mind interpretations of dreams. You're like, oh yeah, I had this dream last night of X, Y, Z, when really it's a symbolic way that your higher self communicates with you, because at a higher level, that we just wouldn't understand what happens in those realms of consciousness. But I digress. The idea behind this and everything I'm sharing with you so far, I'm going to get into the 3 beliefs here in a second, but it's just to show you that reality may be different than what we think, because what we think is real is just what we experience through the 5 senses, but we know there's more than that. We know X-ray exists, X-ray vision exists, or vision X-ray machine to see things in X-ray. We know that there's certain decibel ranges the human ear doesn't hear, but does that mean they don't exist? It just means we don't perceive of it. In the same way, there's frequencies, there's ways of interpreting reality that go beyond the 5 senses that you begin to tap into when you start to go within, when you start to meditate, when you start to have a spiritual awakening even. And then people say, well, scientifically prove that. Well, you're trying to scientifically prove something that's beyond the 5 senses and that can only be really experienced from within, and you're using consciousness itself to look at it and to explain it, when it's beyond the level of consciousness that we could understand. Like Einstein said, you can't solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that was created. In the same way, we can't understand the brain from within the brain. We can understand parts of it, but in order to really understand, we have to go beyond the brain. We have to go into the mind, the cosmic mind, who we really are. So, what is the first belief that may be ruining your life when it comes to this whole process of having a life experience and what we're doing on earth right now? It's believing that everything in your life is solid. Things are solid. What quantum physics is showing us and what science is showing us is everything that we believe to be solid and everything that we think is real is made of non-real elements. It's made of empty space. It's made of energy that is vibrating at a certain frequency. So we look at that and we say to ourselves, that is real, because I can feel it through my senses. But all it is an interpretation of vibration. When we think things are solid and real, and we make things very serious, everything's so serious, we create more rigidity in our life. Now, what is real is experience. The experience of it is real. But the solidity, and when we think that everything in life is set, we think that everything in life is just the way it is, then what we do is we hold ourselves inside of that pattern. So the key is knowing that reality is what you make it. Reality is as serious as you make it to be. And the more serious you make life, the more you feel like you can't move around. You feel like you're in a straitjacket. If you loosen up about it and you just have fun with the process, you realize that in a way, life is a fun experience. At higher dimensional realms of perception, you are connected with everyone else. And even now you're connected with everyone else, you just might not be actually aware of it. But what we're going through right now on the planet is this transition of frequency to where we're becoming more unified, and we're seeing this connection, and we're realizing that war and all of these things is us against us, and it just doesn't really make sense. Even logically, it doesn't make sense. But the key to this is knowing that what we think of as real is not real in the sense of what science can even show. Because things are vibration. Energy is vibration. What we think of to be real, made up of these real elements, is actually made of non-physical, non-real elements. Empty space. And when we see that, we see, okay, when we are going through our life experiences, we are perceiving that which we are the vibration of. And what you perceive of may be totally different than what someone else perceives of, because you may have a different perception, a different lens through which you look at the world. So, two people may look at the same exact event, have totally different interpretations of it because of their beliefs, because of the way they view it. Now, one thing that's really worked for me, especially last year, is realizing that the more I loosen up on life, the more I lighten up on life, the more enlightened I become. I'm not saying I'm completely enlightened, what we would say like a sage that, samadhi or whatever. But what I'm saying is, if you want to raise your vibration, just lighten up. Have fun with the process. This is meant to be a fun experience. This is meant to be something that, yes, has ups, has downs, but in actuality, that's where the growth comes from. And as we feel and as we go more within ourselves and we realize that everything on the outside is a reflection of the inside, our life begins to change. And most people will go about life trying to change the outside, not understanding that the outside is just a projection anyways. And when you change the way you relate to the outside, how you perceive the outside, that's when the magic begins to happen, because then you move from a perspective of going outwards to change to realizing the truth, and the truth is everything is a reflection anyways. So this is the first belief that holds so many people back, people thinking that everything in life is real, solid, fixed, it is the way it is. If you create the consistency of something being the same, you're creating it over and over and over again to appear the same, but it is actually different. You may just continue to have a belief that says, you know, it is hard to, I always attract a certain type of person in my life. And you keep attracting the same type of person in your life. And you're like, oh, this is fixed. This is just the way it is. It's not fixed the way it is. It's just that's what you believe. Therefore, that's what you keep experiencing within yourself. Now, the second belief that may be holding you back, may be ruining your life, many people, it does for many people, is believing that life is happening to you. Life does not happen to you, life happens for you. Now the reason this is, and the importance of this, is understanding that we are not a victim. Yes, bad things happen. Things we don't prefer to experience happen. But that does not make us who we are in the sense of that level of perspective that is happening to us and we have to remain in that victim mode. When we remain in that victim mode, we feel disempowered and we can't actually change our life. Now, the secret to this is taking responsibility. Now, you may say to me, well, Aaron, this happened to me, this happened to this happened. How am I going to take responsibility for what that person did to me? But look at the word responsibility. Responsibility simply means the ability to respond. The ability to respond. So this means that whatever happens in your life, you can choose your response to it, even if it's a very negative thing. Somebody backstabs you. You're like, well, this is a very negative thing. This person did this to me. But instead, you could say, I'm going to choose to remain happy no matter what, and I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to learn maybe to be more discerning with the kind of people that I'm around. It doesn't have to be something that we give a negative meaning to. However, we can use it in a positive way. Some of the most horrible things that have happened in my life when it comes to my ex-stepmom that was abusive led to the pressure of me eventually going through a spiritual awakening. So it didn't happen to me. In the moment that it happened, I thought it did. I was like, why is she acting like this to me? Why is she doing this? However, later on, I realized it from a higher perspective. And when I did that, I let go of all the lower vibrational emotions that were attached to it, and it stopped having so much power over me. So that is the key to taking your power back. It's also forgiveness. How do you forgive someone that's done something bad for you? You realize that anybody that hurts someone else has been hurt before. They're most likely playing out a pattern that they're unaware of. My ex-stepmom, her dad treated her the same way. She was playing out a role of how she thought she had to be. So seeing that people are always doing what they are doing from their level of consciousness they're at, it doesn't mean we have to be like, oh, they're in a lower level of consciousness, but just simply being aware of that, we can then see that people are doing the best they can with where they are. And they may be in a state of, I have to control everything and I have to hurt other people. That might be it. But we can have an understanding that they're doing what they're doing because they've rationalized it in their own head. And understanding that, it makes it easier. If someone's stolen from you in the past, then maybe they stole from you. Maybe they had a belief in themselves that they had to support their family in a certain way, and they didn't believe in themselves enough to go out and create that kind of abundance. So they thought they had to take from you. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't mean you're condoning it. You're saying, I hope it happens to me again. It means you're aware of it, and you just recognize that they have a limiting belief, and that's how they run their life. But you don't have to do the same. They're running maybe even an unconscious pattern out of something they learned when they were a kid from one of their friends or from their parents. Who knows? But the key is just knowing that your ability to respond is the most powerful thing. choose your response. Realize life is happening for you. Everything that happens in your life, you can give some type of positive meaning to, something that you learn from. And as you do so, you start to grow very quickly. But the moment you think that something has happened to you, you give away your power and you say, there's nothing I can do here. So the key is being aware of that and taking your power back and taking back your power of the ability to respond. Now, the third belief that may be ruining your life that you may not even be aware of is this belief of the story of our past. I am the way I am because of what I went through in the past. Now, here's the thing. This is what we learned about parallel realities. There's an infinite number of parallel realities that exist. Every moment we are shifting from parallel reality to parallel reality. They look so similar, we think it's just one parallel reality. But just like you would get the film strip, or I would edit this later and look at it in my editing software, I could stretch out the whole movie, the whole video, however long this is, and I can see that it looks like one long fluid movement. But if I were to look at each individual frame, there is different frames that are moving like this. Now, we think that it's a one long fluid thing, when in actuality, it's many different frames. Each parallel reality that we're shifting through is a separate parallel reality. Any level of change is a totally separate parallel reality. There's an infinite number of parallel realities that exist. Now, what makes us shift through these parallel realities is our choices. The choices that we make, it's our energy state, is what we're focused on. That's what allows us to shift. What we think of as time is actually the movement through these parallel realities. So I'm going like this right now. We have memory, so we can tag on and say, well, you're doing it like this. So we're able to see it and have this little snapshot of what this is, these different parallel realities I'm shifting to. Now, the idea behind this is that as we change in the present moment right now, we change our probable futures that we'll experience because we're changing our energy state now. The future is not set. There's many different potentials. In the same way, there's an infinite number of pasts that exist. But we have this memory that we remember certain things from based on how we are in the present moment. Memory is not set the way that you think it is. As you change right now in the present moment, you also change the probable past that you experienced to. Now, the thing is most people live with the story of the past. And because they live with the story of the past, they continue to create similar probable futures at the same time. Once you become aware of the story you're telling yourself, you can start to let that go. And as you start to look at it and see it just for what it is, it's just a story, you start to let go of in the present moment right now, the patterns that are influencing the probable futures that you do. The future is not set. The future is something you choose based on your decisions, your choices, your energy state, your focus. So the key is letting go of the focus and the story that is holding you in that past pattern. You are not the result of your past. You are who you choose to be right now in the present moment. This is the key to you really experiencing what you want. It's knowing that the story that you told yourself may be something you've told yourself over and over and over again, but it is not actually who you are. The more that you keep that story going, the more that in the present moment right now, you will keep experiencing a reality in the quote future that is similar to that story. That's why many people will say, I always attract a certain type of person. And when they say that, the story they tell themselves is consistent. In the future, guess what? Similar pattern comes in over and over and over again because it's the same story that keeps on playing itself out. Let go of the story by realizing it's just a story. It's a story. And if you were to, right now in the present moment, look for a different story of your past, you could find it. You could say right now, I'm not a confident person. And you could look in your past and be like, look, I'm not a confident person. I can remember other times when I wasn't confident. But if I were to ask you right now to remember a time in your past when you were confident, you could find evidence of it somewhere. It's just that we, through repetition, have hypnotized ourselves into believing the other story has more weight. When in actuality, you've had experiences in your past when you were confident, and if you simply start to focus on those memories, you may start to see that in the present moment right now, you also change your present moment. Now, in general, I recommend just being present to the moment and just letting go of the old story, observing it as it comes up, knowing it's part of the unconscious autopilot mind. However, you could also find evidence of your past to build a new belief. I am confident. There was this time I was very confident I did this, and this happened, and this happened. Oh, there's another time I was confident. As you start to remember these memories, you'll find even more evidence of the, quote, past that you connect to that reaffirm that belief. Now, in the present moment right now, there are many past memories that will reaffirm whatever your focus is. And that focus will then turn into a story, and that story will then cause more and more momentum of more things happening. Let go of the story and realize that you are not the result of your past. You are who you choose to be in the present moment right now. And as you do, you will start to exist in a higher state of vibrational resonance. So for everything I'm sharing with you today, understand that the key is breaking apart the old beliefs about how reality works in general. Is reality solid, fixed, everything just is the way it is? Or start to play around with that belief and see how things can be more flexible. How you don't need to think everything is so fixed. How you can loosen up on life and lighten up a little bit. Realize that things are not happening to you, things are happening for you. How can you grow? Who can you forgive in your life? How can you let go of these patterns? And then thirdly, how you can let go of the story you tell yourself and realize you are not the result of your past. You are who you choose to be in the present moment. And you will begin to then change your life in a very powerful way. These are 3 beliefs that if you change will change your life. Also, if you want something that will change your life, the most powerful meditation I've created is a meditation that will help you to complete the patterns of your past so that you stop living in that old belief system. It's the most powerful meditation I've created. You can read the comments. It'll be in the top of the description box. You can read the comments that are on that YouTube video just to see what is possible for you. Just read some of the comments and then you'll see. And listen to it for 21 days. And it'll change your whole life. You'll start to see yourself differently. What it does is it brings up the patterns of the past so that you can complete them, so that you can then start to be in the vibrational frequency that you want. It changes everything. So listen to it for 21 days. Watch what happens. Also, I've been doing a lot of Q&As on Instagram. If you want to interact with me on Instagram, I'm going to go ahead and link it right here. I post twice a day there. Plus, I do these live Q&As where I bring people on, which is really cool too. So if you want to interact with me, you'll see Instagram right there. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the little notification gear so that you can see the daily vids that I do. And other than that, as always, peace, much love, and namaste.